Okay. We'll be okay. All right. Well, do you, there's more people here. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ben Ward. I'm an instructional designer with the Information Technology Assistance Center. Those of you who are eagerly here awaiting this, I should kind of warn you right off the beginning. When I first proposed this topic about 9 months ago, I thought, sure, this will be incentive to force me to actually learn how to build mobile apps. I was already learning how to do some programming and having a good time with it and so forth. And I thought, I can do this. This will be easy. There are easy ways to create apps out there. I'm going to warn you right up front, mobile apps are difficult, period. Even done easily, they are difficult. Now, if you are here as a developer or a programmer or someone who spins this as your career, this is not the session for you. You need to exit right now because I'm going to be wasting your time a lot. If you are a serious web developer who likes to build web pages and does well with HTML and cascading style sheets and so forth, this may not be your cup of tea either. What this whole session is largely developed for is to hit the lowest common denominator for instructors and professors and people who just want to give this a try, to give it an instructional opportunity. So, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about and showing and discussing are easy ways, sort of, to make something that is worthy of going on a mobile device. So we'll go through about 3 or 4 different things along the way. Now, I also have to let you know, this is a jumble of parts. I have several applications running, projectors, different devices. I'm dependent both on wired and wireless connections. So sometimes I may just have to kind of hold my breath and we'll pray together and it should all work. But there would be moments where we're likely to have little bits of failure here and there. Don't take it personally. That's part of the whole mobile app experience, truthfully. Now, one of the first things I want to really clarify is there really are 2 basic types of apps. We have native apps and we have web apps. And native apps are what most of us think of when we think of applications for smartphones and different things like iPads and so forth. And the native apps have full device access. What this means is they can use all the hardware in the device. They can use the camera, they can use the phone, they can use the GPS, they can use the little accelerometer so you can tip and twist and turn and get it to do things. That is all available when you build a native app. Now, to build a native app, you usually, with almost no exceptions that I can think of, need a software development kit and a fairly extensive background, usually in object-oriented programming. We're not going to be discussing native apps, other than the fact to clarify what they are. Native apps also have other problems. They're device-specific. You write a native app for a specific device or a specific class of devices. If I write an iPhone application, it will be for iOS products. It will not run on an Android phone. It just simply will not. They are different creatures. It's apples to oranges. It is considerably more complex to develop. It does take some experience in programming. And when you try to sell these and use them out in the wild world, there is a mandatory approval process, which we can talk about a little bit later, because you actually have to buy licensing to be able to submit your products to be approved to be sold, whether it's through the App Store or through the marketplace or such. On the other hand, we're going to talk about web devices. Now, web devices really only give you web app, not devices, web apps. Yeah, I'll sooner or later pull it loose. Web apps really only give you partial access to all the features in your smartphones or your different pads. Most of what you have is browser-based. They are less complex to develop, although there is a degree of complexity that is inherent in the process just because the browsers on a lot of these devices are really stripped down. They have some very serious limitations. So if you're out there hand coding, this gets to be a pain. It's not fun at all. The flip side is frequently you just host these things out on the web. You don't need to have anything approved. They're just out there. And anybody can access them, or you can limit them accordingly, depending on how you set them up. If anybody has questions anywhere, I should ask right now. If anybody has questions at any point, please don't hesitate, because this is going to be kind of as I said, a journey, both for all of you and for me too. Just to kind of also give a little more context, smartphones have operating systems behind them. This market share is shifting around. Right now, Android's winning the game. Google Android's winning the game, with about 50% of all smartphones and smart devices of that sort using their operating system. Followed quickly by iOS, which is Apple's operating system, and then RIM, which is BlackBerry, and then we get into others. Now, this is just showing largely what is an American distribution. If you step overseas, these numbers shift around quite a bit. For example, the Symbian, I may have mispronounced it, I apologize if I did, is what you typically find on like Nokia phones and so forth. If you're over in Japan and so forth, that's the dominant platform right off the bat. So a lot of that just kind of depends on where you are and what you have. Now, the upside is, since what we're going to be talking about is mobile web apps, none of this matters, because it has to run in a browser. All we have to worry about is that it'll work in a browser for the most part. Now, there may be some quirks and foibles, and not all browsers rendered the same way. And as you'll discover, those of you, how many of you are like chronic BlackBerry users? I lucked out. You know, like BlackBerries typically have much less real estate than an Android phone or an iPhone. And so you have to consider things like that when you're actually developing them. Okay. Now, another thing that we're not doing today, there's a whole new little catch term out there for web developers that they call responsive web design. This is where you build a website or a series of websites that basically test whether or not you're connecting with a mobile device. This gets complex. You often end up using apps like jQuery and so forth to get it to work right. That's, once again, not what I wanted to do. My whole hope here was to give low-hanging fruit for people so they would have a chance to play with this and see if it had any application in their classes. What we're going to do is just very simple web apps. So they'll display a little differently from device to device. And you won't have that fine degree of control that you might with different devices. This is just a Creative Commons image, you know. So we have the iPad, and down here we get into the BlackBerries, and then the Android phones. And anyway, just to kind of give some examples as we go through. Now, the first solution that I'm going to throw out here is a paid solution. And the reason I wanted to throw it out first, because generally I'm kind of opposed to throwing out paid solutions. But the reason I wanted to throw this one out is because it's dead simple. SoftChalk, in their latest version, SoftChalk 7, has made it possible for you to create lessons using their software, which is very easy to learn. I can get somebody up and running in SoftChalk in about 10 minutes. And it can create a mobile version of activities and sites and so forth very, very, very quickly. The big downside to SoftChalk is the price tag. They're very proud of their software. And in many ways, they probably have good rights to be proud of their software. But the educational price for SoftChalk is $695. So just keep that in mind if you suddenly decide, I really want to teach with this, that there is a big price tag attached to it. That is per user. The commercial cost is $1,200. So, as I said, they're fairly proud of their software. From an instructional design point of view, I can understand. It's a dream to use, it's easy to teach, and there's a lot of fun things you can do with it. And I've included a couple of links here. If you actually go out to their site, let's hope they go, they have articles like the top 5 mobile learning best practices for SoftChalk mobile users. And so if you just dig around on the web, you'll discover there's a lot of really fun things that they have. I've also kind of thrown out there that the Elate Wiki, which some of you may be familiar with, has a whole section that, and I'm going to embarrass her a little, Shaolin Haiju graciously included about developing mobile activities using SoftChalk. And it's really nice step-by-step tutorials that walk you right through the whole process very quickly. So I'm going to hop into SoftChalk real quick, and we'll walk through real quickly just to kind of get a see and a look feel. Now, SoftChalk is basically a WYSIWYG editor. What you see is what you get, more or less, like all WYSIWYG editors. It's what you see, what you get. And you can just start typing away and create all sorts of things very quickly. If you wanted to create links, you could create links and drop those in place just like you would with most editors. And I must save my work or it will be upset with me. There we go. And, oops, it got all sassy on me. And where was I? Back into SoftChalk. Okay. So then I can highlight what I want to make into my hyperlinks, and I'm clicking the wrong button. That's why I'm having trouble. Because I'm thinking I'm seeing the hyperlink button. I'm clicking the preview button. I apologize for that. The screen resolution's kind of throwing me just a bit. So I can then just, create hyperlinks. I can insert pictures. And so I can just grab an image and drop that in there. Create little things like that. But then the real unique thing, the thing that really makes it, is then I can start inserting in what really makes SoftChalk nice. It's these little activities in here. Now, most of these, as you'll see, like the charts and the crosswords and the drag and drops and the hotspots and the flashcards, most of those are strictly for the website. But they have a whole series of little ones over here that are specifically developed for mobile devices. So I can come over here and do like an identify activity, and it will give me this whole set here where I can create new identifying activities and give some choices. And I can do things like select an image. So we will select an image, just a random image. And I can say this is a green monster, or I can say it's a blue monster. And it selects automatically which one's correct. And then I can just keep going on and creating additional ones. And grabbing more images just for fun. And there we go. And it creates up this whole activity. And let's hope I have enough real estate on this page to save this. Okay. I think I have a button that is just below my viewpoint. Oh, come on. Well, excuse me while I hide my dock. There we go. Okay, there it creates my identify activity, and I can save my file right here. Now, when you have this all together, we'll go ahead and preview it. In the normal world, when it's just an ordinary web page, you would have things like your image here, your text, your Google link that you can just click and go to. And then you get the whole identify activity, which it opens up in a separate window. But what's really cool, and this is where we're going to switch to yet another device, and you're going to see why this gets all complicated. We'll go ahead and switch to, now I can't get to my dock at all. There we go. Thank you. We'll go ahead and switch to this camera. And we will turn on a device and have kind of a look-see here real quickly. So let's hope the glare isn't too great. Yeah. Now this is all in K-State Online, so itty-bitty links. I apologize for that. But as soon as it loads, and hopefully because we're hooking off a 3G instead of the wireless, it won't be too awful. It'll load up here, and we can look at it real quickly. Wake up, wake up. As I said, this is the wing and a prayer, hold our breath, and hope things work the way we're supposed to do, because there's a lot of things we're trying to connect together all at once. Maybe I can hop it over onto the iPad faster through the wireless. Okay. As that wakes up and finishes its job. So we'll hop over here as an example, just as an example of how it could look within just the space here. We still have the Google, we have an identify activity, and then it creates a small window. Now, you get to choose whether it's a blue monster or an orange monster, and if you select which one you want, then you can go on to the next one. So we'll decide this one's actually a blue monster because I like to get some things wrong. Red or a green, so we'll take this one as green, and we'll put this one as purple. And then when it's all done, we check, and it'll let us know whether or not we got our answers right. Through there. So you can get activities like that, and still it's just dragging here. There we go. You would not be able to get to this. There is, so here's an example on what it would look like on this phone, and we'll focus in a little. And it'll load up with any luck. Now there is this whole new set that's coming out that's not truly native and is not truly hybrid, not truly web-based apps. There are these hybrids that will actually are written and designed much like a web app, but are loaded onto a phone like a native app. And there are hybrids out there. And my connection's just moving so slow. We'll give it a little bit of time here. But I kind of wanted to show you that with the proper application, a lot of this goes fairly quickly. We're almost there. Yay, we're loading the image. And who would have thought my connections would be so slow today? Okay. And it's being sassy today. I'll give it a chance. Well, we'll see where that loads up in a little bit, and we'll come back to it. So do we have any questions right now, starting with the soft chalk as a whole? Anybody? As I said, this is a really nice product if you're an educator who just wants to build something quick and easy, because my next solution is not as quick or as easy, and is actually a little more tricky when we get into it. Yeah.
Does everything go into it as far as you can link video and all that stuff too? Pretty much any type of web content is okay to use in that?
That's an excellent question. Is pretty much any type of web content okay? And the answer is not quite, especially when we start talking about Apple devices. A lot of web content is things like Flash or uses Java. And all these things, when you start running them through a mobile device's web browser, are going to fail for the most part. A lot of your Android phones and so forth will brag about being able to use Flash and so forth, and a lot of them can. But if you have an older device, it may clunk along. Or an example with this device, I just don't even have enough memory on my phone to actually run Flash. So you have to kind of curtail what you're doing, limit what you're doing to some degree. And since you are dealing with considerably less real estate, you have to think about, what's really important to put up and out there in those situations. And I'll eventually, hopefully, get it running on the other machine here. Is there any other questions about SoftChalk? Yes. That's an excellent question. Actually, the example I showed on the iPad here just a moment ago is residing on K-State Online. I just moved it straight out there. And K-State Online is file ubiquitous enough. It can host SoftChalk files without any problems. Now, SoftChalk does have a Connect service that they're desperately trying to sell to get people to host their products on their service. But by no means is it required at all. In fact, most of the people who are using SoftChalk are using it in conjunction with K-State Online. Now, it's a little tricky to publish. Usually you'll have to call one of the instructional designers to walk you through it the first time, because a lot of files go into this on the back end. It's a tremendous number of files. Maybe I can show. It should be able to be hosted on most servers, period, without any problem. And then I'll just go ahead and open up my K-State course here real quick. Just to kind of give you an idea what it looks like on the back end. And I hope it doesn't intimidate you all too much. So here's sample 2 in all of its glory. And as you will see, it is a great many files. Now this is, and there are nested files within nested files. Now, this upper layer is really just for standard web content. So if I opened it up in its own window, it would just give me the standard web page. But there is a subfolder in here for mobile pages, and that's where, in fact, it creates the mobile version of it, which is considerably more condensed and streamlined down. SoftChalk is kind of messy, truthfully. It has a lot of little files. They all interconnect and talk to each other. And that's where it gets kind of problematic in publishing it in K-State Online, because you have to publish hidden every file except for the specific entry page, the kind of index page, which you have to fully publish that. So that's what makes it a little bit tricky. But it can reside on other servers. There's really no problem whatsoever with that. And it runs very quickly and easily. It'll run on a static server. It doesn't need to be on a media server to function. But it's a nice product. Yeah, probably overwhelming you all at this point. Oh, I'm afraid about the next part then. Okay, so we'll switch back to my presentation here. And we'll go back to the next solution. Now, looking for some way to actually create a mobile site without knowing how to code for it, the only solution I found that was free, that was actually wasn't one of these kind of lost leader attempts to get you to buy services, and that really actually produced what it said it would, is Google Sites. And it's kind of buried. If you'll notice, I've given you not one link, but actually 2 links. Because if you go in through your Google account and go into Google Sites and you just start creating a site, you won't automatically access the templates for mobile devices. They're kind of obscured. So you have to look for it because it's a fairly new thing. But once you get in there, they do have a whole section in there about create sites for mobile devices. And they give you a series of templates that you can actually just hop in and start using. Now, how many of you have a Google account, a Gmail account that you use? Okay, that's great. How many of you have actually used their sites function? A few of you. I recommend it. As long as you're not building, huge sites with lots of data and lots of video and so forth, it's a good playground to actually build up content. They have templates for wikis and blogs, and it's a good place to really throw up some content at no cost. So it's an excellent place for educators. So the second link here gets us started in this little hidden section about starting your own Google site. Now, how much will it take in time? They say it will take 1 to 3 hours to build a mobile site. That's a realistic assumption. We're just going to scratch the surface here because there's a lot that you can do with these. They have widgets and they have little plugins, and you can do all sorts of exciting things with it fairly quickly. So they have one of 5 templates that you have to choose from. Let's see if we can get in there. They have examples like their restaurant template, which is not my favorite. Choose one of 5 templates. So we have a restaurant, local business, lead generation templates, social templates, e-commerce, and even custom templates. And these are basically kind of like skins, like you would have for a blog or a wiki that you get to pick. They have a certain amount of functionality inherently just already set out there for you to use. I think we'll go ahead and look at lead generation as an example. Or was that the one I wanted to use? Okay, we'll go ahead and do the lead generation one. Okay. So you would then go select your lead generation template. And I am getting started. I'm in the wrong place. There we go. There we go. So we'll get in there and we'll select our lead generation. So I'm in Google Sites. I'm going to mobilize my business. I'm going to select lead generation. I'm going to try this template. And when you get the template, it does not look like much. It looks pretty stripped down. And in fact, it's not built for full-scale browsers. It's built for mobile browsers. So it's going to look off, especially when you're building it. And that's an important design thought to consider as you're going through, because you're going to be tempted to put too much. It's like designing billboards. Everybody puts too many words on billboards, never thinking, oh, I'm just going to be driving by at 45 miles an hour. I'm only going to catch at best 3 or 4 words. So you have to kind of think about that as you're going in here. So we'll go ahead and click the Use Template. And then comes, and it gives me all these choices, and these are many of the standard template choices that you get from Google Sites. You have to go to the one that's highlighted in red around it. Otherwise, you won't be selecting your mobile template. You'll just go back to a standard template. Then comes the most difficult part in the whole process with Google Sites. You have to name your site. And since the sites are free, every name under the sun has been used at one point or another. So I cheat wherever I can. So last night I started misspelling words, and that seemed to help. And then it checks to see if it's available. And then down below you have to do a CAPTCHA. I'm sure how many of you are familiar with CAPTCHAs? All of you, I hope. To prove that, in fact, you are not a machine just stealing up server space. And then once you've done that, oh, see, I would have failed already. Thanks. U-R-A. And then I just click Create. And then it's, please wait. All right. This is my site right there. And there's my URL, sites, google.com/site, my mobile site, misspelled 133. I spent, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes trying to get something that was spelled properly that made sense last night. And I finally said, oh, that's just a waste. We will quit this. But the neat thing is at this point, then you can start changing things around. And they try to help you out, because some of it is a little convoluted. For example, if I want to put my logo here, I have to go to Manage Site, Site Layout, Change Logo, which we will do. It's not much fun. So I would go over here to More and hope that I have enough real estate here to actually get into it. There it is, Manage Site. All right. Okay, then I'll come over here to the side, go to Site Layout, and then I would change my logo. And I could then go choose a file. And now, if you remember back on the original page, they warn you about, oh, you need to pick certain sizes of, and you should probably pay attention to that, because if you put too big of an image, it's not going to look as nice. The image I'm using with this chest motif is a little bit too large, but I put it in anyway. So there, I put that in, but it's not obvious. It's kind of a convoluted and little thing. Then I can go back to my mobile site, and there's my image right off the bat. If I want to edit, I can just click Edit Page, and I can start with things like Start Here. If I want to do things with my button, I just click on it, and I can change where it goes to. So we'll go to someplace pretty straightforward. We'll just put in K-State. And then we can go to some place like, now by the template design, it's going to feed automatically to Google Docs as it is written. It'll feed to Google Docs and it'll feed to a spreadsheet. I'm going to supersede that here and just put in K-State just to cause trouble. So I can change that. And then once that's done, I can change the phone number. So I can give you like my phone number, so when this is all over and you want to complain, you can give me a call. And then I can just simply save that. And all those things I've added just real quickly off the base template without much trouble at all. But that is in many ways just the base template. We can add a lot of other things above and beyond that. And we can add additional pages to our site and augment it way beyond that. So if I wanted to add a new page, we could call this another page. We can go create. So there's my another page. And I can start doing things like inserting images, links. There are gadgets that are really nice. I can hook into feeds, recent posts, recently updated files. They have a whole slew of gadgets that are already pre-selected that you can just grab into. You can also hook into things like the spreadsheets and the spreadsheet forms that go through Google Docs already, all in place. You can even hook into video. But once again, video is one of those things you have to be careful. Like the standard YouTube video is actually a flash video, which means if you're running an iPhone, this isn't going to work. You'll get the little warning sign and you'll be, and upset about it in the end. So there are a lot of little options and little widgets and things that you can add in pretty quickly and nicely. So we're going to go ahead and hop into, once again, the document camera with any luck, and then physically look at some of these samples as they kind of occur out in the real world. And let's hope my phone's actually picking up a signal today, because it was being sassy. Here we go. And I preloaded this, so at least it looks good. All right. So here's what I built earlier. Is that showing up at all? May have to tilt. Yeah. I'm picking up too much glare from above. There we go. Maybe if we could kill the front lights, that might help. We can guess. We'll get there. That might help a little. Oh. Maybe if I pull in. There we go. I got out of the glare spot for just a moment. It's not great, but it's there. Okay. And then it goes to sleep. But it's there for a moment. Let me see if I can catch it again. Said, we're kind of just trying to get all these technologies in place. Well, when in doubt, let's go to the iPad, which gives us a bigger representation of it. Okay, because that's just easier to see. And it's a brighter screen. Okay, so now, if you notice, I'm also kind of flipping my orientation. When you develop mobile apps, you have to think of that as you build it, because you can look at sites both horizontally and vertically. And it does work vertically. I could hand this around if you all wanted to see. And it's live. And this version here that I have here, I actually went and took a step further and created my own document in Google Docs. I created a form, so it's right now something that is live. If I wanted to send somebody this URL for this mobile app, they could immediately just start signing up, and it would populate my little database in Google Docs. So, I mean, this is wholly functional. So this is one of those neat little opportunities where you could put a little bit of text and a couple of images and link to a form, and you could have students doing field work, filling out spreadsheets, wherever they were using their mobile device, just off of their link without much effort at all. There's a lot of functionality in here. And when they say it does take 1 to 3 hours, believe them, because you'll be tweaking things quite a bit. I struggled for hours trying to get a video sample to work just the way I wanted, and I still haven't quite gotten it. I'll be entirely honest. So there are tricks to all of this. But this is, as I said, fairly low-hanging fruit. It's something any of you could do pretty quickly and pretty easily. And if you wanted to look on the device, as I said, it doesn't actually look too bad on a phone. And in some ways, it renders a little more reliably than some of the soft chalk elements. So Google's really done a nice job with this, but it's still very early on. Nah, we'll keep going without lights. Does anybody need lights? All right. All right. Yes.
I have two questions, and you may not really want to answer either one of them. But so the first one is just, if I design this app through Google,
Yes.
the way people are going to get to it is that they will click on a URL, right?
At some point, or you will send them a URL.
And then they'll bookmark it or something like that. But at any
Absolutely.
rate, they're entering. Okay. And then the other question is, and this one you may just not want to answer, is why do this instead of essentially create a website? It is a website, right?
Yes, it is. It's absolutely a website. The reality is that a full-blown website often just doesn't fit well on a mobile device. You end up pinching and moving and shifting and scrolling both horizontally and vertically. And that gets problematic. You lose a lot of usability. And so if you are trying to just connect people on the go to things, there's a lot to be said with creating a site like this. It is particularly nice with things like SoftChalk, where they've built very specific widgets designed for mobile devices. So, and that's kind of neat, because then you can get people to get their phones out in class and they can answer little activities and so forth. So that's also kind of nice. But this is just, as I said, this is a sampling. This is kind of moving out into a new environment, per se. It's not perfect. None of it really is, and that is entirely true. To actually hand code a site like this is a lot of effort. It really is. And I've provided some links, including, if you'll notice down towards the end, there's the Adobe tutorial on mobile website development. Now, that's about a 34-minute video. It assumes you actually know how to use Dreamweaver well, and it will walk you on developing a mobile site. It'll walk you right through it. But if you don't know how to use it well, this suddenly becomes a very difficult task. Yes? Oh, no, don't worry. This is all, we're kind of exploring. That's part of the whole purpose of this.
Well, there was something you just kind of said offhandedly a minute ago that got me really excited, because I've been really frustrated that there are so few places on campus where we can use clickers.
Yes.
Clicker things.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a friend who teaches a huge class of between 200 and 300 students, right? And she's been trying to figure out ways to get more involved and so forth. And I keep thinking clicker would help with this, and clicker would help with this other thing, et cetera. And then it suddenly hit me that if a student had a laptop and or a smartphone,
Yes.
both devices, she could set up like a series of surveys that she's going to go to throughout the class, and the students could answer those surveys as though it were a clicker, right? I mean, it would essentially replace a clicker as long as you have either a laptop or a smartphone. Am I thinking right?
You are thinking right.
So
And this
somebody
is,
who has a laptop can get to this app
Mhm.
just as easily as someone who has a mobile device, and it would not look it would look weird on a big screen, but would be able to use it just as well as someone would.
yes, they would.
Okay, so
And this is something that you can easily do with Google Forms. You could do it on the fly, and it can be very extensive. And there's a variety of options on what they can fill in. So you could really make a very interactive, very customized situation pretty quickly. Yeah.
Can I just make a comment about the clickers? It's very easy to get a base station that you can take with you. So if a classroom's not equipped with one of those base stations, you can bring it with you. That's what I do, and the companies will give those out free.
Is that right? Okay, so the company that makes the clickers will happily give you one of these base things, and it's probably something you just hook up through a USB port or something like that.
And I know Rebecca has a comment or two.
Then I would suggest checking out Poll Everywhere, because the app is already created and
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the first part.
Polleverywhere.com.
Yeah.
And you can create your own on the fly. It is such a simple
Oh,
tool,
that's cool. Okay, thanks
and
so
you
much.
don't need any device. You can also do
It's free if you do it for small classes, but if you do larger.
50 is the, I think, the first.
Okay, okay, great, thank you.
Well, and the nice thing about that is you don't have to have a smartphone, as long as
Yeah.
you have texting
Yeah.
on any cell phone.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Now I wanted to include a couple of other things, just as some examples. Just real quickly, just to give as a kind of a counterpoint as we kind of roll down the slope here. There's a product out there called Weebly that Ben Jansen, I believe, in our department pointed me to. And it's an interesting because it's a truly, genuinely drag and drop web builder in a lot of ways. And you can build some simple sites for free. It is a freemium product. They want to sell you URLs. They want to sell you hosting. But if you're willing to use their free version of it, you can very quickly drag and drop. And one of the components in their settings is to have a mobile version, which is really kind of neat. If you go into settings, there's a little checkbox that says mobile, and you click it, and it'll automatically, through their templating system, detect whether or not you're hooking into your site through a mobile device, which is kind of a neat feature. Let me see if I can pull up real quick. I had an example of that. Wake up. It's just kind of a sample site where they built pretty quickly. It was nothing really elaborate, but it shrinks and it moves and it works moderately well. I forgot I got my tilt turned off. There we go. So it'll actually move and shrink and work moderately well on mobile devices. And this is kind of a drag and drop, quick, easy thing. That's also a free product. Another product that I was also shown, minimize, thank you, was Publish 5. And this is more typical of what you're going to start seeing out there. Publish 5 likes to help you build up your whole app. They've got this whole templating system. Now currently the company only works with Android devices, but basically you give them your URLs and it sets up feeds and everything that you want to and all your buttons, and it helps you just drag and drop it onto their little template. You all build it on the web. And then for a fee, they'll submit it to the app marketplace. So it's, once again, it's one of those tricks where a lot of these things, they're more than willing to help you build a mobile web app at a cost. So you have to kind of be careful, and there's scores of them. And if you're interested, I can provide you a whole list of them. Some are more reputable or less reputable than others.
What kind of fee? I mean, what do they charge you?
$100? I'm not sure the exact fee. Yeah. The extent of what you're wanting to publish and how often and how much. We could look real quick, but a lot of what they're trying to do is get you to publish through them, and that's their trick, and that's a part of it. Now some of you, and I'm not sure how many of you are actually doing this, but some of you may be blogging using a WordPress site. Anybody here blogging using WordPress? Okay. WordPress has this whole mobile pack out there, which actually works really well, especially if you ever hit across a WordPress site that has this enabled in it, and you're not using like an iPad. You'll suddenly get a much different looking site very quickly. Let me see if I can pull up an example real quickly here. No. Did I bookmark it? The bigger question, did I bookmark it? And not sure. Is that one? No, I did not actually bookmark it. But anyway, it definitely has a different look to it. I can send you an example of that down the road. But it's a nice way that if you already have an existing site and you want it to reformat and reskin for mobile devices, the plugin's already there. It's kind of a nice feature for those people who've committed themselves to using WordPress. Now, just a few little design tips to keep in mind. Realize that you're developing for a much smaller space. If you use small graphics for small buttons, you will drive some people crazy. It's true. Because they'll be busy pinching and zooming just to be able to actually use your site. And that gets to be problematic. And you also have to think about orientation, whether it's a vertical or horizontal presentation. And then let's face it, certain amounts of scrolling are going to happen in most mobile web apps. It's a good idea to have a specific URL for your mobile site. Unless you're doing responsive web design, you really want to have a specific site. And in most, yes?
How about using a Bitly technique to shorten the length for that?
That's perfectly fine, yeah. Shorten URLs, there's not a problem with that whatsoever. But you do want to have a specific place where you're hosting your mobile content, truthfully. And you want to avoid Flash, because that will cause problem to a good percentage of your users, and Java and pop-ups and things along that nature. Frames, those things will cause you trouble. They really will. Because different devices will either not be able to handle it, or they will handle it considerably different from one device to another. There are some things where we talked about teaching with, and that's kind of when to just throw out some things just to get you to thinking about. The easiest way to teach with a mobile app is to use somebody else's app. Let us entirely be honest. We're looking at so many things out there in the marketplace and iTunes and in the App Store. There is a lot of stuff out there to grab and to use. And I highly recommend it. I'm throwing an example of, the Chronicle has an article about the 6 top smartphone apps to improve teaching and learning. And there's some really neat things in there, like Evernote, that really has a lot of utility, where you can take pictures and you can embed images, you can type, you can tag it with geolocation, all in a note-taking tool. There are other apps that are just amazing. Ones that I just recently threw on my system just because it was on this list and I'd never seen it before, and I thought, oh, that's just too neat. Was called Poplet. So we'll switch over again. Because Poplet just lets you basically, my Poplet, you just start dropping ideas any place you want to. And you can just start typing in whatever you want to, and you can connect things together and drag them around. And get into the text, and change things around, and have fun with it. And basically, it's a mind mapping tool. And it's just out there. And it's in among that list in the Chronicle, which I provided some articles. The truth is there are thousands of applications out there. And I want to kind of plug the iPad users group that meets on, is it second Tuesday? Or third, I always get it a little, third Tuesday. That's a good place to go get a sense of some of the tools that are just out there that you can grab onto and teach with. One of the things I wanted to also kind of pitch is there are some things that already exist on a lot of smartphones that you should consider. For example, like Flickr. This is an example right here. You could get students to go out into the field and post. And I just did a Flickr search to see if anybody was posting images. Here's somebody who, for a lab report, has snapped pictures and posted it to Flickr. There's absolutely no reason why you can't use already existing Web 2.0 apps in conjunction with your smartphones. And the same thing goes with Twitter. You can use hashtags, and you could send students out to go door to door and do polls and so forth, and they could be tweeting responses collectively. So there are a lot of things that already exist out there that you could just grab onto and teach with that are already part of the native environment of most smartphones. And then, of course, I need to kind of plug again what Google was offering, because while I was digging around, I discovered there was all these little neat, fun features, you know, where you can search for anything, anywhere. And they have a whole slew of utilities that are available out there. Let me see. And I'm not sure I'm getting to the right spot. But you can even send text and so forth to your own devices, and I'm not where I want to be. So we'll kind of drop that. But you can send text to your devices via the web, and there's a whole set of solutions that Google provide, and I have provided some links to that in there. Now, for those of you who are brave, I have provided a series of links on your sheet here. If you want to, this is and in many ways, it's kind of like the Wild West for application developers. There are huge opportunities for people to start developing native apps. And there are enormous resources out there, and a lot of communities that are very vibrant and very alive, where they will help you through every piece of the process. The Apple iOS community is just unbelievable right now. Now, they do have the downside that in order to sell something in the App Store, you have to pay $99 a year. You basically have to license the right to sell stuff. But you can, for free, go download their software development kit right now as is. If you pay the $99, you get a few extra features like an emulator that go with it also. So there's a lot to be said. And things have changed. If you go like to iTunes U right now, Stanford's giving away a whole course on iPhone app development that is just amazing. And it's just there for you just to download onto your device and go through. Android OS developers, that's the even wilder west, because they're not as strict as Apple by a long shot, and they're cheaper. Their cost for their license is $25. I also included BlackBerry. Adobe has a whole series of things that through their creative suites that will help for mobile development. Whole pages of content, tutorials, and everything. And even Facebook is getting into the game. So there is a lot of stuff out there that if you really want to bang your head up against the wall and learn some programming, there's great opportunities right now. Okay. I hope I've answered most of your questions. This is kind of a heavy topic in a lot of ways, and I tried to keep it as simple as possible because if we step much further from the path than we are right now, we're lost in the woods real quickly. So do I have any other questions here? Because I'm going to just wrap it up right now at this point.
So where does this physically go?
Where
Where
does
does it show up at? Is it on, you create a link on your website? Do you, does that make sense?
where do mobile web apps end up? You create them on your website.
Right, but how do you let people know where it's located at?
How do you let them? The way you would let anybody know about it. You would text them, you would email them the link, you would send them to your website, you would publish it on an existing web page, you know, on the front page, you put it in your course as a web link. You make it available in a whole variety of ways. There are also other tricks. In K-State Online, it's possible to hook into RSS feeds or iTunes feeds. You can actually go into a folder in Files and Content and turn on those features. I should warn you, they're a little out of date and they don't work as well as they used to. But they're in the process of updating them. In fact, K-State Online right now, they are working on a pilot project to send video to mobile phones. And that should be coming out real soon, so that everything on their streaming servers that would be hosted on K-State Online will be able to be played on mobile devices, which up to this point hasn't been the case as much, because they've been using a lot of flash video. Okay, any other questions? All right, that was a lot. I'm sorry for the technical baubles and foibles, but I hope I gave you food for thought.
Good job.
Thanks.